Chapter 62 Controlling Shimura Danzo. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 62 Controlling Danzo Shimura. By the time the third Hokage finished smoking his pipe, Uchiha Okayama had already copied the contents of the sealed book into his mind, just waiting to study it later. Uchiha Okayama re-rolled the sealed book and gave it back to the third Hokage. The third Hokage did not speak, but directly took the scroll and put it back in the secret room behind him. When the third generation came out, Uchiha Okayama was not polite and said bluntly, "Sandai-sama, please make a copy of all the ninjutsu and secret techniques of Konoha village and give it to me." The third Hokage took a deep look at Uchiha Okayama and replied, "I will take care of this matter, don't worry." Then Uchiha Okayama chatted with the third generation about the secrets and situation of Konoha village, and without wasting too much time, the third Hokage revoked the previous barrier. After the barrier was revoked, Uchiha Okayama paused, looked at the third Hokage's already aged face, and said, "Finally, Lord Third, please invite advisor Danzo Shimura over." After the third Hokage heard Uchiha Okayama's words, his already older face seemed to have aged several years in an instant. He was silent for a rare moment, and finally said in a solemn voice, "Okay, I'll call Danzo here now." After saying that, the third Hokage found a rope somewhere, and he gently pulled the rope. After a while, a man Uchiha Okayama had never seen before came out, dressed like an Ambu. Using the instant body technique, he rushed to the front of the third Hokage. The third Hokage looked at the person in front of him and ordered, "Go and invite Danzo here. I have something to discuss with him." The Anbu personnel didn't say a word and just used the teleportation technique to leave. When the third Hokage saw him leaving, he explained to Uchiha Okayama, "This is my confidant. He will ask Danzo for him, and Danzo will come over as quickly as possible." Then he asked, "Okayama, are you ready to control Danzo like you control me?" Uchiha Okayama had no intention of hiding anything from the third Hokage and nodded, "Yes, Danzo poses a great threat to me. You also know that Danzo's advisor has always been hostile to our Uchiha clan. I don't trust him to hide here, doing things in the dark." The third Hokage also knew the character of his old friend. Hearing Uchiha Okayama's words, he was a little embarrassed, but for the sake of his old friend's life, he still said shamelessly, "Although Danzo has done many wrong things, including Shirsue's, but for my sake, Okayama, can you consider sparing his life? Besides, there is still use in staying with him. He can take care of the roots and gather intelligence for you." Uchiha Okayama was not surprised when he heard the third Hokage's words. After all, he had always heard about the bond between the third Hokage and Shimura Danzo. If it weren't for the third Hokage's indulgence, Shimura Danzo would not be so unscrupulous and lawless. Uchiha Okayama took a deep look at the third Hokage, and replied without replying, "Sir, the third Hokage, in fact, I think that sometimes, Shimura Danzo is more suitable for the position of Hokage than you." As for Shimura Danzo's life and death, Uchiha Okayama would certainly not agree to the third Hokage's request. After all, Shimura Danzo had done too many bad things, and it was impossible for him to protect a person who had done so many bad things. As for his life and death, it all depended on his fate. The third Hokage also fell silent when he heard Uchiha Okayama's words. In fact, he also knew his shortcomings. As he grew older, his temper became weaker and weaker, which was not a good thing for a leader. For a moment, the Hokage's office fell into silence, and no one had the desire to speak. Uchiha Okayama waited for a while longer, guessing that when Shimura Danzo was about to arrive, he hid in a hidden place, because after his pupil technique, Betsukami, has been strengthened, he no longer needs to look into the eyes of the target. As long as he hides in a corner where he can see the target, and is not very far away, his pupil the technique other gods can also play a role. The third Hokage sat behind his desk and smoked silently. He actually didn't want Shimura Danzo to be controlled by Uchiha Okayama, but he also knew that he had no way to refuse Uchiha Okayama's request. After Uchiha Okayama hid in the corner for a while, he heard a step approaching from far away, slowly approaching the Hokage's office. Without any hesitation, the door to the Hokage's office was pushed open and someone came in. The person who came in was Shimura Danzo. since the third Hokage was also an old friend of Danzo, Danzo Shimura had no precautions and came to the desk of the third Hokage with a sting. When Danzo Shimura came to the office and saw that there was no one else here, he said bluntly, "Hiruzen, why are you calling me here in such a hurry? You also know that it is not convenient for me to show up now, and I am looking for Tobirama the information that the teacher left for me. Let's see if there is any way to deal with that evil Uchiha clan's Uchiha Okayama." While the third Hokage and Shimura Danzo were talking, Uchiha Okayama, who was hiding in the dark, had already opened his Sharingan. After careful observation, he confirmed that the person standing in front of the Hokage's desk was neither a shadow clone nor a shadow clone. Use transformation, then, there is a 90% chance that the person in front of him is Shimura Danzo himself. Uchiha Okayama did not hesitate and opened the Mangekyo Sharingan without hesitation, and directly used the pupil technique, by attention, on Shimura Danzo. I saw Uchiha Qiaoshan's Mangekyo Sharingan turning faster and faster. Qiaoshan focused his Mangekyo Sharingan sight on Shimura Danzo. The pupil technique, Beyond God, is activated. It was still the same as when he controlled the third Hokage before. An unknown force that no one noticed directly invaded Shimura Danzo's brain silently, changing his thoughts and will, making the shadow of the Leaf Village in front of him. Jia, the root leader of Konoha Village, has followed Uchiha Qiaoshan's orders since then. His orders are the highest orders of Shimura Danzo. Like the third Hokage, Uchiha Qiaoshan did not feel any decent resistance when he controlled Danzo, and the person in front of him was controlled by him. There is no way around it. This is the reason why other gods are called the strongest illusion. At this moment, Shimura Danzo, who was standing in front of the Hokage's desk, suddenly stopped talking and looked at each other silently with the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. Uchiha Qiaoshan knew that the other god had successfully controlled Danzo, so he walked out of the corner unhurriedly. Chapter 63 The Pharmacist Naiyu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 63 Medicine Master no Naiyu. Seeing that Danzo Shimura had been controlled by the other god, Uchiha Okayama stopped hiding in the corner and walked out leisurely. Shimura Danzo, who originally had his back to Uchiha Okayama, heard footsteps approaching from behind, and turned around alertly. After seeing it was Uchiha Okayama, Shimura Danzo's eyes no longer looked at Uchiha. The hostility and prejudice of the clan turned into a kind of fanaticism, as if they saw the meaning of life that they had been pursuing all their lives. When Danzo Shimura saw that the person behind him was Uchiha Qiaoshan, he immediately knelt on the ground and put his right hand on his chest, as if he was a subordinate of Uchiha Qiaoshan himself. His tone was respectful but also mixed with enthusiasm. Shimura Danzo has met Mr. Qiaoshan. Danzo did something wrong before. Please forgive me. If you are not satisfied with your subordinates, as long as you give the order, your subordinates will immediately commit suicide under the Hokage rock. This will definitely not cause any trouble to you. Shimura Danzo paused, and then continued, of course, if you are magnanimous and spare the lives of your subordinates, Shimura Danzo will definitely treat you badly and die. Seeing Shimura Danzo's respectful and enthusiastic attitude, Uchiha Qiaoshan knew that even if he asked Shimura Danzo to commit suicide now, he would execute it without hesitation. Looking at Shimura Danzo who was half kneeling on the ground, Uchiha Kiwama nodded with satisfaction. The alternate god is so powerful that he can easily make these two people with junior Kage level strength follow his orders. For the vocation. When I controlled the third Hokage before, out of respect for the old man, I did not control him as if he were his subordinate. I just treated him as an equal. Of course, his orders were absolute, even for the third Hokage. The Hokage respects it, and it is impossible for the third Hokage to resist his orders. As for Shimura Danzo, because Uchiha Qiaoshan had always had a bad impression of him, he was not polite and directly controlled Shimura Danzo to become his subordinate through the belt the god, and he was still the one with the lowest status. Uchiha Okayama glanced at Shimura Danzo who was still half kneeling on the ground, and did not let him get up. Although Shimura Danzo was not young, he was still a disciple of Senju Tobirama, and he should have had his first time. Kage level strength. These strengths, although the current Uchiha Qiaoshan looks down on him, but if he is allowed to kneel on the ground for a while, such as a day and a night, Uchiha Qiaoshan feels that it should not be a big problem. Uchiha Okayama looked at the half-kneeling Shimura Danzo and the third Hokage who had stood up from his desk and stood next to Shimura Danzo, and said directly, "About my control of you. No one should leak the slightest bit of information, you still it's the same as before, don't make any changes, of course, all actions against me and the Uchiha clan will be cancelled, you can find the reasons yourself, don't arouse other suspicion, do you understand?" When Uchiha Qiaoshan said these words, his tone became more and more serious. At the end of the sentence, his voice was raised a bit, letting the third Hokage and Shimura Danzo know how seriously he took this matter, and they expressed their "got it, nothing will go wrong." Uchiha Okayama is relatively relieved about the third Hokage and Shimura Danzo. Although the two people have different personalities and ways of dealing with things, the same thing is that both of them are old foxes with high IQs and high aspirations. They will not let go easily. Others discovered their flaw. If it weren't for the eye skills of Other God, it would have been impossible for these two old foxes to be in the hands of Uchiha Qiaoshan. Otherwise, Uchiha Shisui was too naive and actually revealed his biggest trump card easily. The third Hokage and Shimura Danzo were afraid of Other Gods. If he was not unlucky, who would be unlucky? After taking care of all the worries he could think of, Uchiha Qiaoshan also breathed a sigh of relief. Today was really not easy. He took the risk to control the third Hokage and Shimura Danzo, even if he controlled the entire Konoha village. In my own hands. As for the other two advisors, Uchiha Qiaoshan really didn't notice them. Not only did they have a low sense of existence, but they also had no real power in Konoha village. In other words, the third Hokage was too soft-hearted and could tolerate them for the sake of his companions. In front of him, if it had been anyone else, they would have removed their positions and told them to go home. As for Konoha village, Uchiha Qiaoshan did not want to change much. After all, the reincarnations of Indra and Azura are in Konoha village. In the future, when Otsutsuki Kagaya comes out, they will have to rely on them to seal it. As for Uchiha, what is Qiaoshan doing? Of course he is calling 666 from behind. Of course, if you are very strong then, you can also consider sending warmth to Otsutsuki Kagaya, the poor 1,000-year-old otaku who has been sealed for thousands of years. After all, people's hearts are made of flesh, and so is Uchiha Qiaoshan. I think it's not because of Kagaya Otsutsuki's looks that she's very sympathetic, to put it far. Of course, if you don't want to change the big plot, you can still change the small plot. For example, the third-generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen is already very old and has no energy enough to fulfill the responsibilities of the Hokage. You can consider changing it. Tsunade recalled the village and asked this broad-minded one of the three ninjas to take over the position of Hokage. Of course, whether the Hokage has maternity leave is what Uchiha Qiaoshan needs to consider. Thinking of this, Uchiha Qiaoshan suddenly thought that the girl with glasses, Yakushi Nono, should be about to be killed by Shimura Danzo and Yakushi Kabuto at this point in time. He quickly asked about it and still knelt down. Shimura Danzo on the ground. Danzo, the walking Miko. Yakushi Nono is your subordinate, right? Where is she now? How is she doing? Shimura Danzo didn't expect Lord Uchiha Okayama to know about his right-hand man, Yakushi Nono. He was stunned for a moment, organized his words, and replied respectfully. As for Mr. Qiaoshan, Yakushi Nonoyu is still performing tasks outside. However, although she is very powerful, she has too much confidential information in her hands, and her subordinates are planning to let her and another spy ninja kill each other. And finally I will finish it off and completely eliminate them. Uchiha Okayama was relieved when he heard that Shimura Danzo had not yet had time to implement the plan to eliminate Yakushi Nono. It would be a pity if such a beautiful and gentle girl with glasses was killed. Moreover, as long as you have her in your hands, that means you have the late-stage boss Yakushi Kabuto in your hands as well. This deal is very suitable. Moreover, Uchiha Mikoto is also pregnant now. Although the Uchiha clan also has medical ninjas, they are still worse than the pharmacist Nono. She just happened to be transferred here to take good care of Mikoto-san. Of course, before she can take care of Mikoto-san, necessary safety measures are still required. Chapter 64 would release Ninja Yamato. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Okayama thought that Sister Mikoto needed to be taken care of now, so he ordered Danzo, as for the pharmacist Nono, cancel the action against her and bring her back as soon as possible. Since you are not worried about her, then hand her over. Here, when she comes back, send her to me, I will be of use. Uchiha Qiaoshan paused, thinking that the first stage of his training of thunder armor had been completed, and he needed the next second and third stages, but he didn't have time recently, otherwise he would go directly to Kumogakure village, used his Mangekyo Sharingan to copy and learn. Thinking of this, Uchiha Qiaoshan asked, I need the second and third stages of the Raikage series secret technique, thunder armor. Are they available in the village? That the third Hokage and Danzo Shimura shook their heads when they heard Uchiha Okayama's question. The third Hokage then explained, Mr. Uyama, regarding the thunder armor of the Raikage series, our village only has the content of the first phase. Because Yunin village is semi-public about the first stage of the thunder armor, mainly because it wants to select people who are talented in this secret technique. Danzo and I have also studied this secret technique before, and indeed it is very difficult, and it has been promoted on a small scale, but the results were not satisfactory, so I did not pursue the second phase of content. After all, the price is relatively high. It is possible that our spies lurking in Yunin village will be exposed. As for the content of the third stage, I heard that it is a top-secret thing of the Raikage family. They only passed it on by word of mouth and have not recorded it in the on paper, this makes access even less likely. After Uchiha Qiaoshan heard what the third Hokage said, he also had a headache. After all, he had only practiced the first stage of the thunder armor. If there was no second stage to pave the way, if he directly copied the third stage of the Raikage to Shang's thunder escape armor may cause his body to be unable to accept it and collapse directly. There are only two ways now. One is to obtain the second stage of thunder escape armor. After he has mastered it, he can directly copy the thunder escape armor on Raikage. Although this is difficult, since the Raikage series is very difficult for the second stage. The level of thunder escape armor is not very important, so it is not very difficult. The second step is to exercise your body and increase your physical strength, but this is more troublesome, not only inefficient, but also a waste of time, but the better thing is that after all, the strength of his body does not have a big impact on him, so he doesn't need to pay too much attention to it. When the immortal body of the first Hokage Senju Hashirama is copied in the future, it can be solved once and for all. Uchiha Qiaoshan rubbed his forehead and directly ordered, then let the ninjas who are undercover in Yunin village try to get him here, but everything is based on his life's safety. There is no need to throw away his life for this secret technique. After the third Hokage and Danzo Shimura heard what Uchiha Kiwama said, they said in unison, I obey, Lord Kiwama. But the difference is that the third Hokage's face is smiling. After all, Uchiha Qiaoshan's approach of cherishing the lives of Konohagakure ninjas suits him very much, while Shimura Danzo's face is disapproving. In his opinion, the completion of the mission is more important than their lives. As long as they can complete the mission, it doesn't matter if they lose their lives. After solving the matter of thunder armor, Uchiha Qiaoshan was finally going to complete what he had been waiting for a long time. He looked at the two people in front of him and asked, now, who can tell me where the only wooden ninja in our Konoha village is now? Uchiha Qiaoshan did not say Yamato's name because he was not sure where Yamato was now. If Danzo Shimura is still there, his name will not be Yamato, but the code name, so he might as well ask Mudun directly, it would be clearer. Hearing that Uchiha Qiaoshan was looking for a wooden ninja, before the third Hokage could speak, Shimura Danzo glared at the third Hokage fiercely, and said as if he was complaining, back to Lord Kiwama, the wooden ninja was originally he has always been in our roots, and he also grew up in our roots, but recently Sarutobi Hiruzen was kidnapped from me, and now he should be in his ANBU. When the third Hokage heard Danzo Shimura's complaint, he coughed several times, as if he was choked by smoke. After coughing, he immediately replied, Master Kiwama, that wooden ninja has a new name of Yamato. Is on standby in the ANBU now. Although I had arranged for you to be in the ANBU before, you are not in the same team as Yamato, so I have not been in contact with you. Uchiha Qiaoshan was very happy when he heard that Yamato was now at the ANBU base. He had now controlled the third Hokage and Shimura Danzo, but he was afraid that Yamato would be sent out on a mission and he didn't know when he would be able to come back. The idea of copying Muduan is far away. Hearing that Yamato was at the base now, he ignored everything else and directly ordered the third Hokage, third generation, call Yamato to an empty training ground right now. Just tell him to test his recent training results and ask him to use all the wood-release ninjutsu he knows. The third Hokage heard Uchiha Kiwama's instructions and had no objection. He directly followed his words and sent someone to call Yamato to training ground number 15. Of course, not only the third Hokage and Uchiha Kiwama followed him to training ground number 15, Shimura Danzo also followed, but he couldn't leave yet. After Uchiha Qiaoshan finished copying Yamato's wood release, he still had something to do. Yamato arrived very quickly. Not long after Uchiha Qiaoshan and his team arrived at training ground number 15, he arrived. Seeing Shimura Danzo also nearby, he was so frightened that he quickly ran to the side of the third Hokage, half-kneeled and saluted, "ANBU Ninja Yamato, report to Lord Hokage." As for Uchiha Okayama, who was standing behind the third Hokage and wearing a mask, because he was dressed in ANBU attire, Yamato thought he was a guard protecting the third Hokage. The third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, was still the same as before, and ordered with a smile, "Yamato, don't be nervous. I'm calling you here this time, mainly to see if you have made progress in this period of time. Like us ninjas, as long as you go here you have to stick to the road, don't slack off, just perform your best." Since both Yamato's former boss and current boss were in front of him, Yamato would be lying if he said he wasn't nervous, but he still took a deep breath, suppressed his strange emotions, and saluted the third Hokage. He strolled directly to the middle of the training ground and began to demonstrate his wood escape ninjutsu. Chapter 65 Obtaining Wood Escape. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 65, Obtaining Wood Escape, and just when Yamato walked to the middle of the training ground to demonstrate the wood release ninjutsu, the long-awaited Uchiha Qiaoshan also opened his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, staring at Yamato closely, ready to copy his ninjutsu at any time. When Yamato walked to the middle and felt that it would not affect the onlookers, he took out his last state and began to display his wood escape ninjutsu. I saw Yamato making seals with his hands, starting from simple to complex, and began to display them one by one: wooden escape, wooden ingot wall, wooden dungeon, the art of silent killing and binding, wood release, technique of the great forest, would release, the art of cutting, Muduan Kwon enters the temple and hangs hands, etc., etc. There are also many would release ninjutsu, and Uchiha Qiaoshan learned them one by one following Yamato's demonstration, including defensive ones, offensive ones, clone transformation ones, and finally one that can control the nine tails. When Uchiha Qiaoshan learned Yamato's wood style as a Taoist, the system that had been following Uchiha Qiaoshan also sent him a prompt. Congratulations to the host, you have learned the blood succession limit would release through the pupil technique, Eye of Replication, which occupies one of the learning slots. It is estimated that the blood succession limit would release will be integrated into the host's body in 12 hours. Please wait patiently for the integration. During this period, it is normal to feel a little uncomfortable, so please do not panic. Uchiha Okayama was very happy when he heard about the improvement of the system. He gained a lot this time. Not only did he get the wood release that he had longed for, but he also directly learned all the ninjutsu of the wood release. He no longer had to go through the materials to learn it on his own. Uchiha Okayama watched Yamato perform the last wood release ninjutsu, wood release, 4-pillar house jutsu, 4 rooms and 2 halls jutsu. Even though he knew the result, he couldn't help but sigh. In fact, Yamato's wood release is already very powerful. With this wood release, Yamato at least has the strength of an elite jonin, and it has offense, defense, control, and sealing. It can be said that it has everything. However, it also depends on who he is competing with. Another person who can escape is the ninja god of the ninja world, the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama, Senju Hashirama was able to overwhelm the entire ninja world with his wooden escape. In other words, he met Uchiha Madara, otherwise, he was the god of his time. Uchiha Choshan guessed that Senju Hashirama was different from Yamato's wood release, probably because of his immortal body. If the Mangekyo Sharingan of the Uchiha clan represents the ultimate in Yin escape, then Senju Hashirama's immortal body is the ultimate in Yang escape. Senju Hashirama's wood release should not be the blood succession limit composed of earth release and water release, but the blood succession elimination composed of the three attributes of earth release, water release and Yang release. This can explain that the same wood release, Yamato can only build a house, while Senju Hashirama can use Kyubi as a toy. Otherwise, how could Senju Hashirama compete with Uchiha Madara, who had the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and the complete Susanoo at that time? Think about it, except for Senju Hashirama's would release true thousand hands, thousand-armed Guanin, which can blow up Uchiha Madara's Susanoo. When others face the complete Susanoo, they will feeling powerless. I couldn't even hit his knee when I jumped. Yamato released all the wood release ninjutsu he had mastered, which also consumed a lot of energy. Even when he saluted the third Hokage, he was still out of breath. The third Hokage had actually seen Yamato's wood release a long time ago, so he already knew Yamato's performance. He praised Yamato with a smile, told him to go back to rest, and sent him away. Yamato was also very sensible. After bowing to the third Hokage and Shimura Danzo, he left obediently. Uchiha Chiaoshan watched Yamato's back getting further and further away, and sighed. This wood escape is very magical. It has both offense and defense, and the effect is much stronger than simple earth escape and water escape. The third Hokage heard what Uchiha Okayama said and sighed. Yes, it's a pity that there is only one wooden ninja in our village now. It's not easy for wooden to awaken, and the Senju clan only has one Hokage-sama awakening. Even his granddaughter Tsunade, who is so talented and whose bloodline is so pure from the Senju clan, has not awakened Mudoin. After saying that, he sighed with regret. Uchiha Choshan also sighed. Although there are as many people as dogs in the later stage of Hokage who can use wood escape, but if you look carefully, you will find that people who can use wood escape are either related to Senju Hashirama or gods. The tree is involved. From the beginning to the end, the only person who can awaken the wood release on his own, apart from the legendary Ashura, is the first Hokage Senju Hashirama. Thinking of this, Uchiha Choshan frowned again, and he said hesitantly, Yamato's wood release is indeed amazing, but its power feels a bit weak. It feels like he is at most an elite Jounin, even a shadow level none of them can reach it, you know, the original Senju Hashirama, but with the use of wood escape, his combat power reached the super shadow level. After hearing Uchiha Okayama's words, the third Hokage had not yet spoken. Shimura Danzo, who had been waiting next to him, couldn't help it. How can this Yamato be compared with the first Hokage? He is also a defective product. We have estimated that Yamato's wood release can only reach 20% of the first generation Hokage. There is no comparison at all. Uchiha Chiaoshan saw Danzo Shimura coming out to regain his presence again, and said angrily, I haven't settled the accounts with you yet. Is it comfortable for us Uchiha clan to use the Sharingan? Is it easy for Izanagi to use it? That day you were killed by me and resurrected without any damage, using Izanagi, right? Now under your eye patch, is there a Sharingan from our Uchiha clan? Shimura Danzo was already being criticized by Uchiha Kiwama for being autistic. He knew that his position in front of Uchiha Kiwama was not as good as Sarutobi Hiruzen. Unexpectedly, he just interrupted and was criticized so miserably by Uchiha Kiwama. I had to close my mouth tightly and stop talking. Uchiha Okayama doesn't like Shimura Danzo at all, although Shimura Danzo claims to be the root of Konoha village and says that he does everything for the village. Yes, Danzo Shimura should have done a lot of things that were beneficial to the Leaf village. However, based on what he saw, most of the things Shimura Danzo did were for himself. Danzo regarded the Leaf village as his own, instead of treating himself as a member of the village. That's why Uchiha Chiaoshan has such a bad attitude towards Danzo Shimura. If Danzo hadn't needed Danzo to control the roots and collect intelligence, the third Hokage's face would have. He had already been sent to the Pure Land to meet his teacher, thinking of this, Uchiha Qiaoshan seemed to have thought of something again, and ordered Shimura Danzo, Danzo, you also make a copy of the root ninjutsu, secret techniques and information, and send it to me. Remember, it is so material. Chapter 66 Uchiha Izumi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 66 Uchiha Spring, Uchiha Okayama ordered Shimura Danzo, Danzo, make a copy of your basic ninjutsu, secret techniques and intelligence information and send it to me. Uchiha Qiaoshan paused and emphasized, remember, all the information, including the experimental information that you are forbidden to do, has also been compiled for you. After saying these words, Uchiha Qiaoshan seemed to have remembered something, and continued, I don't care about things outside the village. From now on, there should be no more persecution of Konohagakure ninjas in the village. For those who are not sure, leave it to the mountain tribes and let them check their memories and deal with them. If you have the ability, use it to people outside and don't show off your power in the village. Do you understand? Shimura Danzo didn't expect that Uchiha Qiaoshan was quite familiar with what he usually did, so he immediately got to the point and had to reluctantly agree. After finishing the matter, Uchiha Qiaoshan left the training ground directly. He now had the third-generation Hokage, the ruler of Konoha village, and Shimura Danzo, the most troublemaking person secretly, in his hands. In this way, the safety of Sister Mei-chin and his children can be said to be greatly guaranteed. In fact, when Uchiha Qiaoshan learned that Mikoto-san was pregnant, he wanted to send her directly to the Takumagara space, so that everything would be safe. However, Mikoto-san was unwilling, because in this way, she would be no different from a prisoner. Moreover, Uchiha Sasuke is about to go to a ninja school. Sasuke's father and brother are both on Whirlpool Island and cannot be by his side. As his mother, Sister Mikoto is reluctant to abandon Sasuke and leave him alone in the village. Therefore, for the sake of Mikoto-san's safety, Uchiha Qiaoshan had no choice but to take the risk and control both the third Hokage and Shimura Danzo to ensure Mikoto-san's safety in the village. Now that everything is settled, Uchiha Qiaoshan can't wait to return to Sister Mikoto's side. Now, Uchiha Fugaku is not at home. As Sasuke's teacher, Uchiha Qiaoshan must of course shoulder his responsibilities and is definitely not worried about him. Sister Mikoto, as the patriarch of the Uchiha clan and a wealthy family with a history of thousands of years, the Uchiha Fugaku family is actually qualified to enjoy the treatment of maids and attendants. It's just that the Uchiha clan, as a ninja clan that needs to fight, avoids being corrupted by these superior treatments. So even though he is the clan leader, Uchiha Fugaku still did not find a maid to come to his home. In fact, if you want to find a maid, everything is readily available. Uchiha Fugaku's lineage has pure blood and high combat effectiveness. Ordinary tribesmen who worship the strong have become their vassals. If you want to find a maid, choose among these vassal tribesmen. That is, it is not only easy to use, but also loyal. Nowadays, the wife of the patriarch of the Uchiha clan is pregnant, and the patriarch Uchiha Fugaku and the eldest son Uchiha Itachi have led the elites of the Uchiha clan to expand their territory. They are unable to take care of the family, so they find two maids to come to the house to help take care of her. It was a matter of course that the clan leader's wife and Sasuke were pregnant, so when Uchiha Qiaoshan came to Sister Mikoto's house, he saw two pretty little maids added to the house, Uchiha Izumi and Uchiha Ha. When Uchiha Qiaoshan saw Uchiha Izumi, he knew that he had changed the plot again. Uchiha Izumi is also a genius. She and Uchiha Itachi should be the same age, but she did not receive corresponding guidance, which led to her lack of fame. In the original work, Uchiha Izumi is a little girl who has an affair with Uchiha Itachi, and is a genius who can open the 3 Magatama Sharingan early. But on the night of the Uchiha clan's genocide, he was killed by Uchiha Obito. When Uchiha Qiaoshan saw the two little maids, he just nodded and didn't show anything strange. Yesterday, Sister Mikoto told him that in order to take care of her and Sasuke, he found two maids, but he didn't expect that one of them was Uchiha Spring. Thinking about it, although Uchiha Izumi's talent is very high, because she did not receive a good education, her strength is not very high. In addition, she only has one mother in the clan, and she is also a girl, so she is not taken seriously, so she was sent here. Being a maid is normal. Uchiha Qiaoshan also had some bad tastes, and he did not remind Uchiha Mikoto that Uchiha Izumi and Uchiha Itachi were somewhat ambiguous. He also wanted to see it. When Uchiha Itachi came home, he saw Uchiha Izumi coming to his house as a maid. What kind of expression it is, I wonder if it can evolve into the drama of my young master falls in love with me. Since there were 2 more maids at home, Uchiha Qiaoshan did not show much affection to Sister Mikoto. Instead, after finishing the meal in a polite manner, he stood up and left. Sister Mikoto is also a person with dignity, so there is no need for her to embarrass her. Besides, Sister Mikoto is also pregnant and cannot fool around with him. If he really misses Sister Mikoto, he can come to her at night or summon Sister Mikoto to the space. Anyway, these 2 maids were only at Sister Mikoto's house during the day and went back at night. After Uchiha Qiaoshan went home after eating and drinking, he returned directly to the space. After all, his performance was very obvious now. He was easily targeted by Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu. He was not safe at home. He could only be in his own room. Only in this space can you truly relax. Uchiha Okayama in the Takamagara space is not idle either. After all, he just got a lot of ninjutsu from the Book of Sealings from the 3rd Hokage, and he can also study them. I already know how to create multiple shadow clones, reincarnation in dirty soil requires sacrifices and is imperfect, etc. You can consider the 8-gate Duinjia and discuss it later. In the end, Uchiha Okayama selected the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. After all, he is also a person with space. I believe he should be a person with space talent like the 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato. I really don't know what the 2nd generation Hokage Senju Tobirama's brain is like. Not only did he invent many ninjutsu and forbidden jutsu, but they also involved different directions, including space ninjutsu, shadow clones, and those involving death and resurrection. Uchiha Qiaoshan doubted who was the time traveler between him and the 2nd Hokage, but later, when Uchiha Qiaoshan saw the reincarnation of the Dirty Earth, he thought of the possibility that the 2nd generation Hokage used the Dirty Earth to reincarnate. According to records, those who were drowned in the long river of time knew these ninjutsu, secret techniques and forbidden skills. The people who knew the ninjutsu were reincarnated through the dirt, awakened them, and learned and recorded these ninjutsu from them. After all, human energy is limited. No matter how talented the 2nd Hokage is, it is impossible for him to be proficient in so many aspects of ninjutsu. However, he is not only proficient, but also invented it, which makes Uchiha Qiaoshan somewhat doubtful. Get up on behalf of the Hokage. Chapter 67 Mu Dun's Awakening and Experiment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But doubts are doubts, and ninjutsu still needs to be learned. After all, the 2nd Hokage is dead, and the truth is no longer important. When the 2nd Hokage is summoned back by the reincarnation of the dirty land he invented, there will be no need to ask again. So Uchiha Qiaoshan first wrote down the ninjutsu Flying Thunder God Jutsu he had memorized in his mind, then held it in his hand and began to learn silently. Well, this should have something to do with psychic skills. Well, this pattern should fit the space. Well, this part should be marked in the calibration space. Uchiha Qiaoshan looked up at the time. Well, 10 minutes have passed. Okay, let's learn this today. Let's take a look at the history of the Uchiha clan. Uchiha, a scumbag. Qiaoshan silently put down the handbook of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, saying that he had given up and would not struggle anymore. Whatever you want to learn in the future, just copy it directly, otherwise why would you work so hard to open the Sharingan? Uchiha Okayama just stayed in the space like this, sometimes reading a book, sometimes taking a walk on the island, and feeling the reaction of his body at all times. Uchiha Qiaoshan could feel that because his body was slowly merging with Mu Dun's blood inheritance limit, there was always an indescribable hot feeling in his body, which made Uchiha Qiaoshan restless. Moreover, Uchiha Okayama could feel that his body strength was slowly increasing, his physique was slowly strengthening, and the vitality in his body was slowly becoming stronger as time went by. You know, the 1st generation Hokage Senju Hashirama, apart from the wood escape, the most powerful thing is the powerful vitality in the body, which can achieve Muji healing. Even Uchiha Madara said that no one can kill Senju on the battlefield. Hashirama, this is because of his strong vitality. The In seal of Tsunade, the fifth Hokage, is actually imitated by her grandfather Senju Hashirama's Muji cure. Although there is a huge difference between Yamato's would release and Senju Hashira, it is still the blood succession limit would release. In the later stage, Baizetsu was able to use a similar would release, True Thousand Hands, because Yamato was captured at that time, and being wrapped in Baizetsu's body, Yamato's would release should have some of the essence of Senju Hashirama. Moreover, as the vitality in Uchiha Qiaoshan's body became stronger and stronger, some chakras that were different from his before gradually grew in his body. The new chakras that appeared were warmer and softer than the previous chakras. These chakras, the appearance of carrot, made Uchiha Qiaoshan's body stronger and more energetic. Even his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, as it is nourished by these chakras, seems to be wrapped in warm spring water, just like a rusty machine has been smeared with lubricant, and can operate more flexibly and energetically. And Uchiha Qiaoshan can feel that after his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan is continuously nourished by the new would-release chakra, in the depths of the Sharingan, the divine power of the Mangekyo Sharingan must be Susanoo is also ready to move, as if he has opened his shackles and is moving towards a higher level, the complete Susanoo. No wonder Uchiha Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan can be used for so long, because after he was rescued from the battlefield by Uchiha Madara, in order to save his life, he was fused with White Zetsu's body. Only then did Uchiha Obito be able to use would release. The chakra of would release can nourish the Sharingan, which enables Uchiha Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan to be used so casually and frequently. If you look at Kakashi again, he seems to have the power of using the Sharingan once. It seemed like it could cost him half his life, and just when Uchiha Qiaoshan was restless and uncomfortable due to the burning heat in his body, Uchiha Qiaoshan finally felt as if something in his body had reached a critical value, and a kind of power awakened from the depths of his body, and this is the power of Mudun. The chakra in the body also increased sharply with the awakening of Mudun. You know, Uchiha Qiaoshan already had a lot of chakra before, and later it increased sharply with the continuous upgrading of his Sharingan. Before his awakening, Uchiha Okayama's chakra could already be said to be comparable to that of a small-tailed beast, and with the awakening of the wood release in the body, the chakra increases. Now Uchiha Qiaoshan, it can be said that his chakra can already compete with the tailed beasts, and even surpass those of those with one tail and two tails. The tailed beast, fortunately, Uchiha Okayama is not in the village. Otherwise, if he fails to control the chakra surge due to the sudden increase in chakra, the amount of chakra leaked would be enough for several Kakashi, and he might be on duty all the time. The department monitoring the village was in a state of panic and frightened. After waiting for a long time, the chakra fluctuations on Uchiha Qiaoshan slowly subsided. Uchiha Qiaoshan clenched his fists and felt the power that seemed to fill his body. He felt that even if the Sage of Six Paths came, he would be able to fight with him. Just be tough. Of course, Uchiha Qiaoshan knew that this was just an illusion caused by the sudden increase in power, but now he could completely walk sideways in the ninja world. Now that he had awakened the wood release, of course he had to give it a try. Uchiha Qiaoshan was not in a hurry to go back. Instead, he tried the wood release on the island and started greening it. By the way, since Uchiha Qiaoshan also copied Yamato's wooden ninjutsu when he copied it, he can use it directly now without having to learn it in person. So Uchiha Qiaoshan directly found a spacious place on the island and experimented with wood escape ninjutsu. After a lot of trouble, Uchiha Qiaoshan discovered that although he copied Yamato's wood release, the power of his wood release was much stronger than Yamato's. Wood release, probably more than twice as strong, and he released the wood release when escaping. It was much easier than Yamato, probably because of too much chakra. As for why the power of wood release is greater than that of Yamato, Uchiha Qiaoshan probably has something to do with his Uchiha clan bloodline and the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, since wood release can promote the Sharingan. It is not surprising that the Uchiha bloodline or the Sharingan may also promote the wood release. Immortal eyes and immortal body complement each other. There is no reason why they can only benefit one side. After Uchiha Qiaoshan experimented with wood release on the island, he was idle again. On the height of the island, in a place with pleasant scenery, he used wood release. Lianzhu's house, upgraded version with 4 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. Lianzhu, a large villa, built a large wooden villa that could accommodate more than 10 people, and then Sharingan returned to his home in Konoha village. Chapter 68 Fragrant Phosphorus. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Uchiha Qiaoshan came out of the space, the sky had begun to slowly turn dark. Uchiha Qiaoshan stretched and looked at the sunset in the distance, lost in thought. Since coming to the world of Naruto, today is the most meaningful day for Uchiha Qiaoshan, not only because today he finally controlled the third Hokage and Shimura Danzo. Controlling them in his own hands is equivalent to taking the entire Konoha. The village was in control. What's more, he knew today that he had his own child in this world, and this child was his deep bond. But I can't be careless, because there are still many threats outside. Not to mention the old man of 6 paths who is wandering around the entire ninja world in the form of chakra. Let's talk about the 3 immortals in the 3 holy places. Let's talk about the Toad Immortal. A figure from the same period as the Sage of 6 Paths. Even the Sage of 6 Paths is dead and exists in the form of chakra, but the Toad Sage is still alive today. If you say it is not a threat, who will believe it? Not to mention its strength, Toad Sage's unreliable prophetic dream is a troublesome existence for Uchiha Qiaoshan. You must know that its prophetic dream is the only prophetic ability in the world of Naruto. The key is that there is a powerful Jiraiya who just believes in this prophetic dream. Even if he pays his life for it, he has no regrets. If Toad Sage was asked to predict something bad for Uchiha Okayama, Jiraiya would be like a fly that smelled something and would rush to trouble him. Even if Uchiha Okayama can easily dismiss Jiraiya, it is estimated that Jiraiya will still persevere and call over Tsunade, who is gambling around the world, and Orochimaru, who is hiding in the Sound Ninja village for experiments. Although Orochimaru, I don't have much affection for Konoha village anymore, but if I knew about the existence of Uchiha Qiaoshan, I would probably come to join in the fun. Tsunadeheim is Uchiha Qiaoshan's next target. If Jiraiya informs her in advance, it will be difficult to succeed. Although she is suffering from hemophobia, it is probably her excuse for staying and not wanting to return to the village. Otherwise, even if you don't use the Uchiha clan's genjutsu, you can just find a trustworthy genjutsu master to give Tsunade a psychological suggestion, and the phobia will be cured without medicine. Standing behind the 3 ninjas are the 3 holy places, Toad Sage, White Snake Sage and Slug Sage. They should be the number 1 village in the ninja world. They have a deep foundation and can be ranked high in the ninja world. The Holy Land is all covered by the Leaf Village. If they were to unite to cause trouble, it would be enough for Uchiha Qiaoshan to have a headache, not to mention Nagato and Uchiha Obito from the Akatsuki organization. Not to mention Nagato. Not only is he a member of the Uzumaki clan, but he also has the only pair of Rinnegan eyes in the ninja world. His abilities alone are different. But the clones that are both difficult to deal with give Uchiha Okayama a headache. As for Uchiha Obito, although he also possesses the Space Eye technique, he is not afraid of his divine power. However, don't forget that he has inherited Uchiha Madara's legacy. I don't know if there are any other tricky methods that haven't been used yet, so we can't take them lightly. Some people can't be washed clean, and they can still be forgiven if they haven't done anything wrong. For example, Uchiha Itachi, in the original work, no matter how grand his reasons are, it can't change him from killing his parents and clan members. Fact, but now, due to the arrival of Uchiha Qiaoshan, Uchiha Itachi no longer has to bear these sins. As for Uchiha Obito, no matter how clear he is still the one who killed his master and his wife, who was very good to him. Regardless of Kakashi's feelings for him, no matter how clear he is still a person living in an illusory world. Scumbag, therefore, don't overestimate the bottom line of a scumbag. This also does not give Uchiha Qiaoshan a chance. As long as Uchiha Qiaoshan comes across him, he will naturally be punished, and now, there are still many years before Uchiha Obito launches the 4th World War. It is enough for Uchiha Qiaoshan to prepare and improve his strength, so that by that time, he can destroy the Ten Tails with one hand and dance with Uchiha Madara. So now, Uchiha Qiaoshan has to develop slowly and slowly accumulate his own power. After upgrading his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Uchiha Qiaoshan still has a lot of room for improvement. Uchiha Qiaoshan has already tasted the sweetness of the blood succession limited would release. It is at best an incomplete version of the sage's body. The original sage's body cannot be found in the entire ninja world. He can only find things related to it, such as speaking of the Senju bloodline in Tsunade and the blood constitution of the Uzumaki clan, relatives of the Senju clan. Just looking at Uzumaki Naruto's much more chakra than Kakashi, you can see how terrifying the Uzumaki clan is. You know, the nine-tailed Jinchuriki has always been a member of the Uzumaki clan. Why? Because ordinary ninjas, or the bloodline physiques of other families, simply cannot withstand the chakra of the nine-tails, which illustrates the terrifying nature of the Uzumaki clan's physique. Why did Madara Uchiha transplant the Samsara Eye into Nagato? It was because Nagato was also a member of the Uzumaki clan. He was of the very pure blood of the Uzumaki clan. Madara also knew that ordinary people could not afford to support Samsara Eye, so the Samsara Eye was transplanted to Nagato. Therefore, although the country of Uzumaki was destroyed, many important characters who appeared were closely related to the Uzumaki clan. Uchiha Okayama suddenly remembered that a woman from the Uzumaki clan appeared later and joined Uchiha Sasuke's team. It seemed to be called Xianglan, and she should be in Kusugakure village in the country of grass, since Uchiha Qiaoshan plans to copy and learn the blood constitution of the Uzumaki clan. The more people from the Uzumaki clan he collects, the better. And now in Konoha village, only Uzumaki Naruto is a member of the Uzumaki clan, and compared to Xianglan in fact, Uzumaki Naruto's bloodline is not dominant. For example, Xiang Lian and her mother both have the physical healing ability of the Uzumaki clan. No matter how injured you are, you can quickly restore chakra and injuries by biting their skin. Moreover, when Karen appeared, he already had the abilities of the Uzumaki clan. Kagura's inner eye is a very powerful sensory ability, while Uzumaki Naruto only has huge chakra and a recovery physique that is different from ordinary people. Therefore, Uzumaki's bloodline should be purer than Naruto Uzumaki's bloodline. Uchiha Qiaoshan is fine now, and the rear area of Konoha village has been settled by him, and haste makes waste. His strength has improved too fast, and he needs to be stable. Otherwise, he will end up like Teru Otsutsuki. Yi Tingyi, although very capable, lacked combat experience and was sealed by two people who were far better than him. Chapter 69. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mao Yu Shiyen. Uchiha Qiaoshan is still very relieved about his rear. After all, for him now, the most important thing is Uchiha Mikoto. However, he has marked the space mark on Uchiha Mikoto. When he met Mikoto, he went in danger. Just a thought will send Sister Mikoto back to Gao Tianyuan space. Even if he personally protects Sister Mikoto, that's all. Moreover, he can come back at any time. With the combination of the space mark and the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, even if Uchiha Qiaoshan goes out, he can come back every day to have dinner and sleep, and then go back through the space mark the next day, and then go back on his way. And do tasks. It's just that Uchiha Qiaoshan doesn't want to do this, because it is too conspicuous. As one of his trump cards, it is better not to use the space pupil technique frequently outside. Moreover, after all, Uchiha Qiaoshan is now a member of ANBU and goes out of the village to do tasks. On the surface, we still have to go through the orders of the third Hokage. Moreover, it is quite special to be alone when going out to do missions. Uchiha Qiaoshan planned to ask the third Hokage to match him with a teammate, so that he would not look so special if he had teammates accompanying him. Uchiha Okayama had just entered the ANBU base that day, and the purple-haired figure he met also found out the name through the third Hokage. It turned out to be Yuzuki Yugan, who appeared on the tombstone of Moonlight Hei 8 in the original work. She had also just joined ANBU. Ever since Uchiha Qiaoshan saw her that day, she had gone out of the village to do a mission. She had just come back recently, and because the tasks she was responsible for were different from those of Uchiha Kiwama, and Uchiha Kiwama was responsible for, I also took several days off, so I didn't encounter him. Uchiha Okayama planned to let the third Hokage arrange for Kakashi to lead the team to carry out this mission with himself and Yuzuki Yugao. Although his eye technique, Betsutenjin, has entered the cooling period due to controlling the third Hokage and Shimura Danzo, he cannot use it. Control Kakashi, and then copy and learn the pupil technique in his eyes, Kamui. However, you can also get close to Kakashi. Maybe you can take the opportunity to learn it at some point, and bringing Uzuki Yugon with him is because having beautiful women around him is eye-catching. For the current Uchiha Choshan, carrying Wazuki Yugon is purely a mascot. However, Wazuki Yugon's swordsmanship seems to be good, and it can be copied secretly. In the world of Naruto, samurai and swordsmanship have declined, and there are few swordsman masters left in the entire ninja world. Hatake Sakumo is one, but unfortunately he was forced to death by Shimura Danzo, and his son Hatake Kakashi, and later gave up the Hatake swordsmanship. Otherwise, Hatake Kakashi would not be so weak in the later period, just like a soy sauce existence, that is, at the last moment, with the help of Uchiha Obito's kaleidoscope, he wrote "Will he acted cool once and barely saved his face. Now that he had already planned it, there was no ink mark on Uchiha Hill, so he directly found the third Hokage while it was still dark and asked him to arrange this mission. In fact, Uchiha Chaoshan doesn't need to go, because there are many people who can run errands for him, but Uchiha Chaoshan still hopes that he can go out often and do tasks, because this can also serve the purpose of training himself, and Uchiha Chaoshan can also take advantage of the opportunity to go out to do tasks and mark his spatial mark of Takamagara on the entire ninja world, which will be convenient for him to go out in the future. This task of marking the space mark can only be done by myself, and there is no way to ask others to complete it. By the time Uchiha Chaoshan returned to the Uchiha clan's territory, the sky had already darkened. Uchiha Chaoshan touched his shriveled belly and estimated that Sister Mikoto's family had already finished eating, so he didn't go over to disturb her. He turned around and left the clan area again, heading towards the gathering place of Konoha village for dinner in the evening. As for whether to eat yakiniku or ichiraku ramen, Uchiha Choshan only considered it for a second. Of course he went to ichiraku ramen. There were no cute little iris in the yakiniku restaurant. When Uchiha Okayama came to the ichiraku ramen shop, it was the busiest time for ichiraku ramen. There was no way. At this time, there were many chunin and genin who had just finished their missions near the village. Ichiraku the ramen is delicious and filling, and the most important thing is that it is not expensive, so it is the first choice for many cash-strapped chunin and genin. Because there were so many people, even the little calamus was busy running around. Her cute little face was flushed, and she looked so pretty. Although his eyes lit up when he saw Uchiha Choshan, his eyes were full of smiles and surprises. But he hurriedly said hello and went back to work. Uchiha Okayama first said hello to the cute iris, and then shouted to Uncle Ichiraku, "Uncle Ichiraku, it's the same as usual, 2 extra large portions of deluxe ramen, one with tonkatsu and one with seafood." Uncle Yael was also very busy there. When he heard that it was his old customer, he greeted him and said, "I have told you several times, don't call me uncle, just call me brother." "I haven't done that yet." "Old." Uchiha Choshan found a seat in the crowd, sat down and said with a smile, "Little Iris is so cute, I have planned to be my wife in the future, now calling you big brother, isn't it a generation higher than her?" But no. Uncle Ichiraku couldn't help but rolled his eyes when he heard Uchiha Choshan teasing his precious daughter again and ignored him. Xiao Eri, who was running around in the alley and busy working, quickly glanced at Uchiha Okayama. Although he didn't speak, his already red face became even redder. The people eating at Ichiraku ramen looked at Uchiha Chaoshan, and when they saw the Uchiha clan emblem on Uchiha Chaoshan, they looked away at him. The Uchiha clan, which has a police force, cannot be offended. Although Uchiha Choshan looked easy to talk to, the people next to him still followed the principle of doing more things than doing less, and did not look for trouble or talk to him. Uchiha Okayama's large portion of ramen was quickly prepared, and was carefully brought over by Xiao Iris. Although the ramen was already packed in a big bowl, the big bowl was still filled to the brim by Iris, and the juice inside was about to overflow. When Uchiha Okayama's large deluxe version of ramen was brought over and placed on the table, the person next to him looked at his own large portion of ramen, but compared with Uchiha Okayama's, it looked a little pitiful. The person next to me couldn't help but fell silent. When did the gap between the regular version and the deluxe version become so big? Uchiha Okayama ignored the poor spectator next to him. After looking at each other tacitly, he began to enjoy the food in front of him. Chapter 70 Mission. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Since Uchiha Qiaoshan practiced the thunder release armor, his appetite has increased day by day. Although after completing the first stage of training, his appetite has decreased, but Uchiha Qiaoshan has just awakened the blood successor limit would release today. His explosive increase in cha carat and enhanced vitality, where does the energy come from? Of course it comes from the energy normally stored in the body, therefore, Uchiha Qiaoshan's current body cannot be said to be overdrawn, it can also be said that it requires huge energy. And where does the energy come from? Of course, we have to eat more. Uchiha Qiaoshan now felt as if a small claw had stretched out from his throat, scratching his heart and liver with hunger. Only by eating quickly and filling his stomach could he be comforted. Uchiha Qiaoshan first picked up a large bowl and took a sip of the rich and delicious tonkatsu soup to soothe his stomach. Then he picked up the chopsticks and started eating as if he was not afraid of being burned, otherwise, only when you're hungry will you feel the deliciousness of food. Uchiha Okayama quickly ate the first bowl at a speed that ordinary people could not match. When he picked up the big bowl and finished the last mouthful of soup, Iris, who was always paying attention to him, brought the second bowl over in time. When Uchiha Qiaoshan was full and put down the bowl with satisfaction, he had already finished 6 large bowls of ramen. Even the well-informed Uncle Ichiraku and little Iris were shocked by Uchiha Qiaoshan's appetite. After eating and drinking, Uchiha Okayama greeted them and strolled back to the Uchiha clan as if taking a walk. Early the next morning, Uchiha Okayama reported to the third Hokage. After all, it was his suggestion to go to the land of grass to pick up the phosphorus. It would not be good to go too late. Besides, it was too casual here for the third Hokage. Too easily arouses dissatisfaction and suspicion from others. When Uchiha Qiaoshan came to Anbu to report, the third Hokage happened to have come to work in the Hokage building. The first thing he did was to call Kakashi, Uchiha Qiaoshan and Uzuki Yugan over to arrange tasks. Both Kakashi and Uzuki Yugan had just returned from a mission outside the village, and they didn't know what happened. Kakashi gestured to Uchiha Okayama with his eyes and asked him if he knew anything. Although Uchiha Qiaoshan knew it, he shook his head and said that he didn't know either, so Kakashi called Uzuki Shien over from another room so that they could report to the third Hokage together. It was also the first time for Uchiha Qiaoshan to see Uzuki Yugao. Although she was a few years younger than Uchiha Qiaoshan, she had already become a beautiful girl. In addition, she had been practicing swordsmanship, so her figure was also very good. There is also a girlish lightness. It was also the first time for Uzuki Yugan to see Uchiha Hills. Although she had seen them from a distance before and heard of Uchiha Hills, this was her first time to be so close. After meeting the famous Uchiha Qiaoshan, I found that he was only a few years older than me, and he was so good-looking. The Uchiha clan is already good-looking, and Uchiha Qiaoshan is still the best among them. The key is, Uzuki Shien felt that Uchiha Qiaoshan was not like the Uchiha clan she had seen before, with a gentle temperament. Suddenly seeing such a good-looking and comfortable person like Uchiha Qiaoshan, Uzuki Shien did not panic, but he also blushed a little. When Kakashi introduced him, his face kept blushing, although his face her breasts were tight, but the hand she held tightly revealed her nervousness. After a brief introduction to each other, Kakashi and the other 3 hurriedly went to meet the third Hokage. After all, the third Hokage was still waiting for them and wanted to chat. There would be plenty of opportunities in the future. After the 3 people arrived in the room, the third Hokage didn't waste any time and directly issued an urgent mission to them. The third Hokage took a puff of cigarette as usual, and then introduced the information to the 3 of them. Kakashi, Uchiha Okayama, Uzuki Yugao, I received an information. It is said that there is another mother and daughter in the Kusanagi village of the country of grass. They are members of the Uzumaki clan of the country of Uzumaki. Their current situation is not very good. Although the kingdom of Uzumaki was destroyed, our Konoha village has always had a friendly alliance with the Uzumaki clan. Therefore, for their safety, I entrust you in the name of the third Hokage to bring them safely back to Konoha village. The third Hokage paused and then said to Kakashi, Kakashi, you also know that the Uzumaki clan has a special physique. Bringing them back will not only strengthen Konoha's power, but also be a good home for their mother and daughter. Kakashi was a little distracted when the third Hokage introduced him. He did not expect that this mission was related to the Uzumaki clan. After all, the Uzumaki clan was from his master's clan. As for his past memories, he did not dare to touch them, but I don't want to forget it, and I can't forget it. After the third Hokage introduced the situation, Kakashi had already controlled his memories and did not ask any more questions. After all, there was detailed information on the mission scroll, so he directly replied, Don't worry, the third Hokage, I promise to complete the mission. Now Kakashi still focuses on tasks, and the third Hokage is still very relieved about this. After seeing Kakashi's assurance, he nodded with satisfaction and added, According to the information I received, the mother and daughter of the Uzumaki clan, my mother's condition is not very good, you should set off early and try to save her life. When the three Kakashi saw the third Hokage saying this, they immediately said goodbye to the third Hokage, then went home to pack their things and gathered at the door. In fact, Uchiha Choshan didn't need to pack his things at all. After all, he had a portable space, but he had to go back and talk to Mikoto-san so as not to worry her. After the three of them agreed on a time, they hurried back to pack their things, because the time that the three of them agreed on was not long and the time was relatively tight. Uchiha Okayama also came directly to Sister Mikoto's house. At this time, Sister Mikoto had also gotten up and was having breakfast with Sasuke, while Uchiha Izumi and Uchiha Yi were waiting nearby. Uchiha Choshan didn't have time to mess around anymore. Instead, he briefly talked about the situation with Sister Mikoto, rubbed Sasuke's head, and went home to pack his things. Don't say anything, although Sasuke's temper was always bad in the later period. Okay, but the current Shota Sasuke's hair is still quite soft and not prickly at all. Although Uchiha Choshan didn't need to pack anything, it would arouse suspicion if he didn't bring anything when everyone else was carrying a big bag, so Uchiha Choshan also packed a big bag indiscriminately and went to Konoha. We gathered at the village gate.